welcome Roko Belic. Thank you so much for joining the Firebelly Chronicles today, and we're so honored to have you here. You
Thank
are an
you.
Academy Award nominated documentary filmmaker, and in 1999 you won the Sundance Award and were nominated for an Academy Award for your documentary film Genghis Blues. And in your recent project, the documentary Happy, which I love, you teamed up with Tom Shadyac, who is known for directing films such as Ace Ventura, Liar Liar, Bruce Almighty. And so he executive produced this film Happy, and you directed the film Happy. And as I was telling you before we started recording, the Firebelly Chronicles is a community of aspiring creative individuals. And we're filmmakers and producers and entrepreneurs, performers, and we look to individuals like you who are making these amazing films, and you continue to do it, and the drive that you continue to have for it. And we're just so happy that you're here with us to share some of your wisdom with us. So if we could just get started, how did you get involved with filmmaking, and has it always been a passion of yours?
Well, it's a good question. It's hard to know exactly when I started making films, but essentially my first exposure up to filmmaking. What, my computer almost fell down.
Oh no.
My first exposure to films was probably in second grade when a friend of mine got a movie camera from his dad. Actually, it's debatable now whether it's his dad or his mom, but one of them gave him a movie camera, and my brother and I helped him make some movies. I didn't know what I was doing. This is a Super 8 movie cameras, and since film was expensive and it took a long time to develop, we were making stop action movies mostly with clay figures and using my brother as an animated doll, and nudging him a couple feet on the sidewalk and taking another frame and then another couple feet. And so but I didn't know what I was doing, but the person who did was my friend Chris. Now Chris, his last name is Nolan. Chris Nolan has ended up going on to direct movies like Memento and Insomnia and Inception and the Batman trilogy that just finished recently. So Chris, was an amazing mentor. I didn't realize it, but he was an amazing mentor even at that time, in that he understood films and was curious about them, and I got to tag along, basically.
Wow.
And then in high school and college, I made a couple films, but really my first real experience was making Genghis Blues. It was my first movie, which took about 4 years to make.
And how did you, come up with that? How did you, get the desire to do that, and the financing and all that goes along with making them film?
Yeah, I had never done anything professionally. I had no idea how movies got made. I didn't really even realize there was a difference between documentaries and fiction. I mean, as dumb as that sounds, I just didn't know anything.
Right.
But I saw a documentary when I was 16 years old it was on PBS, and it was about an eccentric American physicist trying to get to Tuva.
Okay.
So it's this weird documentary. It wasn't a science movie because it was about the scientists, but trying to go to this weird place near Mongolia where people sing 3 notes at the same time.
Okay.
And they sort of look like cowboys and Indians. They're Asian, but they ride horses and live in teepees. And so I always wanted to go to that place ever since I heard about it in that documentary. And then about 5 or 6 years later, I just got out of college, and I called one of the people I had seen in the film, and I said, hey, I want to go to this place, Tuva. I thought you should know because nobody knows anything about it. And he told me about a blind blues musician who was scheduling a trip to go there the following summer for a competition of this multi-harmonic singing.
Okay.
And so he basically said to me, if my friend at the BBC doesn't shoot this film about his trip, maybe you could shoot it.
Wow.
He was talking about the guy who made the film that inspired me in the first place.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Amazing opportunity,
Yeah.
and we were on the telephone. He didn't realize I didn't know what I was doing, and everything I owned existed in my backpack on my friend's couch.
Yeah.
But I said, yeah, I'll see if I can fit it into my schedule, and then I sort of tried to sound professional, and I don't know what the hell I was doing. Became friends, and that's how the first project happened.
So that was your first film.
Yes.
So Genghis Blues was your first film, and you received an Academy Award nomination for that.
Right. Well, I have to say there was one step before that, which is in college. I took some film classes, not production, but theory classes, and so I got to see a lot of weird stuff. I never heard of independent films.
Okay.
And I got to see movies by people like Derek Jarman and Greg Araki and all these people whose voices were totally different than I was used to seeing on screen. And I traveled around the world for a year. I took a year and a half off. I painted houses and saved up some money, and I traveled with a friend of mine to any cheap country we could get to where it was cheap to live. And so we survived on a few $1,000s for the whole year. And I shot some video of that trip, and I spent about 3 months editing that on a linear tape-to-tape system in college, and made an hour and something documentary. And it was absolutely terrible. But that was really my first experience editing something and trying to make it engaging for an audience. Now, the truth is, the movie sucked so bad, nobody would ever see it except my friend who went on the trip and I.
Right.
And it was any good. But it was a real stepping stone, because it taught me that I didn't know what I was doing and that I needed to put in more time. So when I made Genghis Blues, my only rule for myself is that I would not have a deadline. Because I hated, this documentary I did in college, I had to turn it in at the end of the semester, and it sucked. So, and I felt like that with all the art projects that I did in school. Most. So that was really important to me, to just say, I'm going to do the best job I can, however long it takes. And I ended up taking about as long as, a master's program would. I think.
So cool. What kept you going?
Well, ever since that time, and this continues to be the case, I realized that I am doing exactly what I would be doing if I didn't have to have a real job. In other words, it's fun. I love it. I'm totally inspired by it. The story, this guy, Paul Pina, who I made the movie about, is an incredible guy. And I got to hang out with him. And I got to dig in and ask him all kinds of questions and get his stories from his life. And it was just, it's the thing I want to be doing. So it's not hard to keep going. It's just hard to solve all the problems along the way. Things get really tedious. You don't have any money. You don't know what you're doing. There's all kinds of obstacles, and those get hard. But there's no problem keeping going.
Right. And what do you do when do you ever question yourself, like when you run out of money, or you run, are there things you'd go to, like tools and resources, like emotionally, spiritually, whatever it is, bank accounts or anything?
I just realized I misspoke. I never ran out of money. I just never had it.
Got it.
So
Okay.
I was broke the whole time.
Okay.
And so, like my brother and I, when we made Genghis Blues, we were living above an auto body shop in a sort of seedy part of San Francisco. And it was an illegal living space, but it was so cheap. It was $250 a month each.
Wow.
That was so cheap to live near downtown. I could walk to where I was editing. So I'm just used to being totally broke. So it's not like we ever hit rock bottom. We were just at rock bottom the whole time, which means we had nothing to lose.
Right.
There was no fear because we already didn't have anything.
Right.
So, and not to make it melodramatic, but I mean, we didn't. We're living like poor college kids, and so I'm used to that.
Yeah.
And so there's no fear that really comes from that. I mean, I'm not to say that I don't work odd jobs once in a while. Somebody will hire me to edit something or shoot something, or and I take all kinds of opportunities. I worked on all kinds of weird things to make money. Like I said, I painted houses. I've done all kinds of stuff. But lately, the last, I'd say, 8 or 10 years or so, I've been able to survive just from the projects that I'm making.
That's fantastic.
From money that people raise for the projects, or that we raise ourselves, or I feel really lucky for that. So
that's cool. That is so cool. So the movie, so this is a really great segue into the movie Happy, which I showed you. I'm wearing the Happy shirt today in honor of this. And I actually watched it again last night because I just love it so much. It seems like you, I mean, I don't want to say you had it figured out before Happy, but you did stuff that made you happy. You're working in a profession that you were passionate about, regardless if you were making money. Was there anything, about working on Happy that you learned in terms of the content or in terms of filmmaking?
Yeah, a couple things. First of all, when I started the project, so my friend Tom suggested we make this movie. He called me one day. He said he read an article in the New York Times about happiness. It basically says we're a rich country, but not a very happy country. I want to explore happiness in a documentary. Would you want to direct it? So that was the starting point. I just thought, absolutely. Immediately I said yes, which is kind of a big thing to say because you know you're committing to at least a year or two
Right.
of your life, but just immediately,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And you guys were friends before this?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We've been
Okay.
friends for a few years.
Okay.
And Tom's like an amazing guy,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
one of those super compassionate, loving, amazing human beings. And so from that starting point, I thought that I had it kind of figured out.
Yeah.
Like you're fine. I was doing a job I loved. I didn't call it a job. You know, I haven't had a job since I painted houses. You know, this is
Yeah.
play for me.
Yeah.
And I feel very lucky. I've been somewhat successful at it. And I thought I was going to spread some of the things that I knew
Mm-hmm.
that I saw my friends and some people I knew not paying attention to.
Okay.
You know, things like doing things that are important to you, that are meaningful, having fun, taking time to go play, you know,
Mhm.
spending time with your friends, all those things that I kind of knew intuitively. I didn't realize how much making the movie would change my life.
Right.
From a filmmaking perspective, just briefly, I intended for the movie to be very straight and normal in the
Okay.
sense that I didn't want to make it weird and edgy and esoteric that would alienate regular people who don't see documentaries or who don't see independent films.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why the aesthetic of the film is very straight.
Right.
And that was,
Interesting.
yeah, it was a risk to me. You know,
Yeah.
like some people have seen the film and they're like, oh, I thought you'd be much older,
Uh-huh.
meaning that it's a conservative-looking movie.
I understand.
But I did it for that purpose, and I think it worked because the movie is in 60 countries around the world, and so that's technically from a filmmaking perspective. But after hearing about the importance of relationships, basically that the quality of your relationships are the biggest, strongest indicator of whether you're happy or not.
Right.
For money, health, age, beauty, talent, luck, all those things are secondary to your relationships. After hearing that, I knew it intuitively. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
But I had not been prioritizing them in my life as much
Yeah.
as I do now. So I moved to Los Angeles to be near some of my friends who I knew I would never see if I didn't make a move because
Right.
they are families and careers and stuff. I specifically moved to a mobile home park.
Okay.
When I visited one of my friends who lived there, there was a built-in community. Like within 5 visits, I already knew 20 people in this mobile
Wow.
park. And I lived 10 years in a suburb outside of San Francisco, and I knew like 3 neighbors.
Right.
You
Right.
know, and I always said, "Oh, we'll have a party and get to know
Mhm.
everybody," and we just never did it.
Right.
Whereas in the mobile home park, you just meet people all the time.
Okay.
And seeing the kids grow up in the neighborhood and how much they played together, different age groups, and how
Mhm.
they knew all the old people in the community, and the old people knew them, and my girlfriend and I thought, "Oh, what a great place to raise a kid."
Yeah.
And so a couple years ago, we had a baby.
Oh my gosh! Congratulations.
Literally, thank you. And when I think back, we would not have a baby if I hadn't made this movie and reprioritized relationships, moved to
Yeah.
Los Angeles, moved to a community that's nurturing.
Oh, that's so cool, Roko. I have the chills. That's so cool.
Totally. I mean, literally, my daughter exists.
Wow.
Yeah,
That
weird.
that is fantastic. So a lot was learned from this film.
Yeah.
What so this website is for aspiring artists, filmmakers, entrepreneurs, but I think that a lot of times, we get wrapped up in, creating projects that get into this festival or that festival or winning this award and that award, and will they like it and will they don't like it? What can you offer? Like, how can we kind of not care about what other people think and not care about that we're not making a lot of money at this time, and all of our friends and family are wondering what we're doing sitting in our house editing this movie? Like, what advice can you offer to that sort of individual?
Well, I think there's a certain inherent strength you just have to have because
Yeah.
nobody's going to get it. At least in my experience, nobody except my mom, and a couple friends sort of got it and supported what we were doing, especially after it started taking years. A
Yes.
few months, everybody's like, "Oh, it's cool, you're making a movie." After like 3.5 years, people are like, "Dude, you need to get a job and start acting like a grown-up and be serious." And so you do need just a certain thickness of skin to just know that you're okay.
Yeah.
But there's an important thing, I think, that enables you to have the strength to do that, and that's to recognize that whatever you're working on has some application to other people.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that I did that for myself is I would show a few minutes of my movie to one friend of mine all the time. He was an editor.
Mm-hmm.
He was helping me technically, and I would ask him, what did you get out of this scene that I just edited last night? And he would say, well, I'm not sure. And he would give me some advice. And I realized by doing that, I was understanding that I'm connecting with people.
Yes.
And the goal of my editing process was to make something that worked for somebody who was not me.
Yes.
Somebody who had never heard about Tuva, who wasn't interested in this kind of singing, who never met Paul.
Right.
That was like a real basic lesson to know your audience.
Yes.
And once you know your audience and you feel that you're making something that will resonate with somebody, that helps. That helped me a lot. At the same time, I never won any awards. We never got any grants for the project. I'm talking before Genghis Blues. It's not those people who got, Fulbright scholarships or anything. I was like the guy who always thought I was being unrecognized. The unrecognized genius artist, right? The cliche. I mean, not completely. I didn't think I was a genius, but I thought, God, my drawing is better than that kid's drawing. How come I didn't get an award?
Right.
And so I did not expect that Genghis Blues was going to play at any film festivals, let alone win the Sundance Audience Award and play all around the world.
Yeah.
And it was important that it was still worth it to me.
Yeah.
Like, I thought when I finished that project, I was going to just have to get a real job and finally make some money. And that was fine. I just thought, this project is so amazing. This guy, Paul, is so amazing, and Tuva is so incredible. I'm going to be happy as hell that I did this no matter what.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is important. Like, if you're making a movie that you think that you're doing because it's going to make you famous or because you're going to get rich, or I don't think that would give me the strength to continue through all of the hurdles that I had to jump over to get to the finish line.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's rewarding in itself, you're good.
Yeah. I love that. Well, that is fantastic. That's exactly, Go.
People have to pick their projects wisely. Don't pick something just because now you got out of school and now you want to make a movie.
Yeah.
Make a movie because you have to make it. And I know that's kind of a cliche, and some people, they ask me, how do you find your projects? And I don't. They just, and this is such a cliche, but they find me. Like, I hear about something and then I just latch onto it and I just can't let go.
And you just become obsessed, and like it's something you just can't let go of. Like you have to express this. Yeah,
and I guess getting back to your question, it's important to just have confidence that that's extremely valid.
Yeah.
You don't need anybody else to be passionate about it. If you are, screw them.
Yeah.
Worry about it. Tell them to, worry about their own job and their own career.
Exactly.
You're going to do what you want to do.
Yeah. That is beautiful, Roko. Beautiful. Thank you so much. I know you're busy. What are you working on next, and how can we find you, and how can we support you?
Thank you for asking that. TheHappyMovie.com. I have a wonderful dog.
I know.
A happy dog.
Yeah.
We have 3 of them. TheHappyMovie.com is a great way to get a hold of that project and to sort of stay in touch. I am working on a narrative project, a scripted narrative feature film, which is very exciting, which is a script that Tom Shadyac wrote, the executive producer of Happy.
Oh, great.
And I don't want to talk too much about it, but I'm very excited about it. And we're at the very beginning of the process. We're just in the script stage, so maybe in a year or 2 we will see it on the big screen, hopefully.
Yeah, well, that is exciting. I'll link up your website at the bottom of this interview as well, so we know how to find you and follow you and support Happy. So thank you so much, Roko. I really appreciate it. Continue to do great things in the world and inspiring us, and we'll be watching you.
Well, you too. We're all on the same team in this.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
All right. Thanks, Roko. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye, Shelley.